Yes, y'all are muted, but I know you're saying good morning back to me. I know that. So, and good morning to those and everyone else in our viewing audience. I'm Elizabeth Hewlett. I am chair of the Prince George's County Planning Board, and the Planning Board is now in session for its December 9th, 2021 meeting, our 71st virtual meeting. Before I start with my announcements, I do want to make sure I announce that we have everyone. We have our full complement of board members. We have Madam Vice Chair, Dorothy Bailey. We have Commissioners Washington. We have Commissioners Dorner, still sporting his new look. And we have, well, look, what you have, Commissioner Giraldo removed, okay? So we have the clean shaven Commissioner Giraldo. We have our, oh, you're here. Okay, so Mr. Hunt, we have our Chief of Development Review, James Hunt. We have our legal counsel, Delisa Coleman, and we have our Director of Planning and our Acting Deputy Director of Planning. We have Director Checkley and Acting Director Berlage here. And we have our technical hearing writer, Marie Proctor, and we have Kenny Flanagan over here, our senior planner technician working the PowerPoint, Mr. Flanagan. If you need him to move things along, his name is Mr. Flanagan. And we also have that man behind the curtain there, Ryan Cron, who is our media visual specialist, working extraordinarily hard back there. So that is who we have present today. And as we continue business operations, propelling Prince George's County forward, I just want to remind everyone of our participation guidelines for today's hearings. Speaker pre-registration and pre-submission of comments and exhibits is required. All participants must pre-register, and all materials or exhibits, if any, must be submitted by 12 noon on the Tuesday before the planning board meeting, as shown right there on the screen, as announced in every weekly meeting, as posted on our website, and as clearly stated in bold red on our published weekly planning board agenda. Registered speakers and presenters may join the meeting with the link provided via the email from the planning board office, or may listen or participate by phone utilizing the call-in number provided in the email. Of course, the public may continue to watch planning board meetings streamed live, or if you wish to become a person of record, you may sign up on our online web form. See the screen for instructions. Okay, Mr. Flanagan is directing you with the cursor. As always, we commence our planning board meetings with a moment of silence for those who have passed on in the intervening week since our last meeting. We want to start in Prince George's County. We want to remember Senator Nathaniel Exum. He was a former state senator and delegate in the Maryland General Assembly for over 36 years. He represented Prince George's County for 36 years. He was also the father of former council member Camille Exum. I know his services are going on, and we want to remember Senator Nat Exum. We also want to remember Vaughn Barkdahl. Vaughn Barkdahl was the former director of public works in Prince George's County. He served many, many years. He was appointed under County Executive Larry Hogan, and then he was also part of the Dimensions healthcare system, our Prince George's Hospital system, and also raised tremendous amount of money with the golf tournament, and also was a champion for of the Prince George's County Fair. We want to remember Charlene Capella, longtime Prince George's County employee who worked for County Executive Glenn Denning as well. Lovely woman. We want to remember Doris Ann Mickens. Doris Mickens is not from Prince George's County, but the 85-year-old Ms. Mickens was the mom of former transformative leader and president of the Prince George's Community College, Dr. Charlene Mickens Dukes. We also want to remember the latest victims of the widespread coronavirus. Now, in the United States alone, we've had over 50 million cases. 50 million. Okay, we've had over 814,000 deaths from COVID. 814,000 deaths from COVID. We now are averaging 1,100 deaths per day in the United States. This is egregious. It's getting worse and worse. You know what you need to do. I'm going to come back to that, but you need to protect yourselves. You need to get vaccinated. You need to get boosted. Throughout the world, we want to remember former Senator Bob Dole, Robert Bob Dole, age 98, who passed away. His services are starting now. He was a World War II veteran who also was the Republican nominee for U.S. president several times, and he was awarded the 2 Purple Hearts and a Bronze Star by the United States Army, and he was presented with a Congressional Gold Medal in 2018. He died 9 months after announcing stage 4 lung cancer. We want to remember Eddie Mecca, age 69, the actor known for his role as Carmine, the big Ragusa on Laverne and Shirley. John Shell Alexander, age 22, the actress who starred at age 12 in Oscar-nominated Beasts of the Southern Wild. She died in a shooting in New Orleans. Tommy Lane, age 83, the actor and stuntman best known for his roles in Shaft and Live and Let Die. Yvonne Wilder, age 84, actress who played Consuelo in the 1961 West Side Story film, which was celebrating its 60th anniversary this year, and the new one is coming out in December. So we want to remember Yvonne Wilder. Claude Humphrey, age 77, NFL Hall of Fame defensive end who played with the Atlanta Falcons during the 70s. Glenn Foster, only age 31, former New Orleans Saints defensive lineman who died shortly after being taken into police custody in Alabama. Otis Anderson, age 23, University of Central Florida football running back, allegedly shot by his dad. Darlene Hard, age 85, Hall of Fame tennis player who won 3 major singles championships and 13 major doubles championships. There may be more that I may have missed, so we open our hearts and extend our deepest sympathy to any of you who may have suffered the loss of a loved one, a friend, a family member. And if we may have that moment of silence now, it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Again, obviously we are still in the month of December, which is AIDS Awareness Month, Universal Human Rights Month, National Pear Month, National Drunk and Drug Driving Prevention Month. You know, we get to the holidays, people get a little carried away. So we want to prevent that drunk and drug driving and do some defensive driving while you're at it. It is Art and Architecture Month. It is High Neighbor Month. You know what? Some of us don't even know our neighbors. Make sure you reach out, greet your neighbors, say hello. Kindness always begets kindness, or 99% of the time. And finally, it is National Eggnog Month. It is December 9th, and I would say on December 9th in 1953, Old Blue Eyes, Frank Sinatra, recorded Young at Heart, which is now starting to be my theme song since I'm not chronologically young. 1965, A Charlie Brown Christmas premiered on CBS. It is just a wonderful movie, and it's just wonderful to watch it over and over again. 1968, the iconic TCB, i.e. Taking Care of Business special, aired on network TV, featuring the dynamic Supremes and the Tempting Temptations together. 1971, Lewis Powell was appointed by President Nixon to the United States Supreme Court. 1978, the Blues Brothers, Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi released their version of Soul Man, originally recorded by Sam and Dave in 1967. But did you know it was actually written by, before he became a singer, he was a songwriter. It was written by none other than Isaac Hayes. And David Porter accompanied him, but I just want to make sure you know that. And then in 1989, Billy Joel's We Didn't Start the Fire hit #1. I want to go to our slides, please. On our slides, I just remind you that the winter 21-22 issue of Department of Parks and Recreation's Your Guide is available. It is filled with in-person and virtual activities, classes, events, and more. There's truly something for everyone. I invite you to peruse it. There's performing arts, there's educational classes, and just all sorts of fun sports things. You can download a digital copy by visiting pgparks.com. Next slide, please. The Department of Parks and Recreation will host a community meeting to discuss the first draft of the Walker Mill Regional Park Master Plan development. Park planners will present recommendations on the future of the park. It is tonight, December 9th, from 6:30 to 8 p.m. You can RSVP at pgparks.com/RSVP. And finally, I want to remind everyone, you know what, we've been cooped up. It is time to get out safely. And I invite everyone to experience the joy and wonder and majesty and magic of the 35th Annual Winter Festival of Lights. It is 3 miles of magnificent and whimsical lights and light displays. I mean, they've got all the characters from the Wizard of Oz. I mean, even the tornado and Toto and everything. It is just wonderful. You really need to go see it. It will lift your spirits. So take your family, your loved ones, but please bring canned goods, non-perishables, because in Prince George's County, we care. And we want to make sure that, that we look out for those who are less fortunate than ourselves. So if you've got some non-perishables, bring them, and well, you can go get some and bring them. And that just would be very, very welcome. Well, I want to thank, there are people I know on this in this viewing audience right now who also participated in the bike through the park for the first time this year, through the Festival of Lights, and also the Trot for Turkey. We have some regulars, so we want to thank you very much, because the Trot for Turkey enabled us to partner with United Communities Against Poverty to provide turkeys for Thanksgiving and the holidays for families in need. So we step up, we care, and it's just important that you show your kindness. So I will close with that thought. These are very tough times, and we're continuing to grapple with anxiety, stress, fear, loss of friends and loved ones. But we struggle and we push forward because we are resilient. It is who we are. Now, we all know that there's a new surge in cases. It is escalating tremendously. The capacity at hospitals is nearing capacity, number one. And so they're approaching the point where they're going to push off all elective surgery. And we now have in addition to the Delta variant, which accounts for 99% of the cases, we now have the Omicron, and there's tons of variants of the Omicron. So these are warnings to all of us, and particularly during the holiday season, where we tend to increase our social gatherings. It is so very important to mask up, backs up. We are all at a higher risk as numbers tend to surge. Due to the gatherings and less social distancing. You get carried away. You want to hug everybody. We do not want to jeopardize our loved ones, and particularly our susceptible elderly and our very young. So if you have not done so yet, by all means, get vaccinated. If you had your second vaccination 6 months ago, get your booster shot. Your booster shot, I mean, there's a chance you can still get the virus, but you are not likely to die or even be hospitalized. We're talking about saving lives here. That's what we're trying to do, save lives. So get vaccinated, get boosted for yourself, for your safety of your friends, your colleagues, and loved ones. 1,100 deaths a day due to COVID in this country is a travesty. Let's put an end to it. Thank you. So we thank you and appreciate your flexibility, cooperation, and support as we continue our planning functions in a safe fashion during our no longer new normal. It is important that we plow through this, and for the benefit of from our public, for our private sector, for Prince George's County, but we must do so in a safe fashion. So we will keep rolling here. And as we embark on today's hearings, we remain thankful for our blessings. Let's not lose sight of them, and ask that everyone make an effort to be kind. There's craziness all around us. We can offset that one person at a time by being kind, looking out for one another, staying safe, staying strong, staying resilient, staying woke, remaining ever hopeful, and getting vaccinated as we strive to get through all of these challenging times together. Thank you. With that,
Madam Chair.
Yes, is that Madam Vice Chair?
Yes, may I have a moment, please? I would like to congratulate you on receiving another award for your Room of Awards. Last night, you received an outstanding award from MFBP for your distinguished service, and we congratulate you on all that you do. Congratulations again, Madam Chair.
Thank
Would
you
you
so
tell us a little bit more about that award?
It was, thank you. It was a wonderful surprise. It was last evening. The NFBPA is the National Forum of Black Public Administrators, and it was wonderful. It was a statewide chapter, the Maryland chapter, and they put together a video somehow without the help of our office. They did their own video. It was narrated by the county executive. It was a wonderful award. There was a musical tribute, a live musical tribute too, by Brian Lanier. It was really incredible, and I've been a longtime member, and I was truly honored. So thank you for that.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And with that, I'm going to our agenda. And the first couple of items on our agenda, we have two commissioners' items. We have two resolutions of appreciation. The first is for Corporal Gustavo Perez, who has ably and conscientiously served the citizens of Prince George's County for 26 years as a dedicated member of both the Prince George's County Division and the Montgomery County Division of the Maryland National Capital Park Police. So we want to really, really congratulate Corporal Gustavo Perez. The next one we want to celebrate is Renee Albacet. Oh my goodness. So we want to congratulate him for his 27 years as a key member of the Prince George's County Department of Parks and Recreation of the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission. He's provided key contributions in so many roles: CIP landscape architect, CIP design and construction project manager, and so many. And we have these resolutions which will be formalized depending on the vote, and we will give them to Corporal Gustavo Perez and to Renee Albacet, and wish them both extraordinary happiness in their respective futures, and to thank them for their years of service. So is there a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, he's Johnny on the spot today. Commissioner Giraldo, motion maker, and seconded by Madam Vice Chair. Madam Vice Chair.
Aye.
Commissioner Washington.
Aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
And Commissioner Giraldo.
Vote aye, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. The ayes have it, 5-0. Next item on our agenda, the draft minutes of December 2nd, 2021.
Move approval, Madam Chair.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Washington, seconded by Madam Vice Chair. Madam Vice Chair.
Vote
aye. Commissioner Washington.
Aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
And Commissioner Giraldo.
Vote aye, Madam Chair.
The ayes have it, 5-0. Next item is we have draft resolutions and final plats on the consent agenda. They are items 4A and B and item 4D. Is there anyone who wishes to oppose the staff recommendation, or any board member who wishes to discuss?
Madam Chair, for consideration of the records for items number 4A, 4B, and 4D, I move adoption of the staff findings and approval of the items on the consent agenda in accordance with the recommendation of staff.
We have a motion by Madam Vice Chair.
Second.
Second.
Okay. We have a second by Commissioner Washington. Madam Vice Chair.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Washington.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Giraldo.
Vote aye, Madam Chair. Thank you.
The ayes have it, 5-0. We are going to be proceeding in this order. At this point, we're going to go with items 8, 9, 10, 5, 6, 7. So we have a series of extension requests for preliminary plans of subdivision. So let's go with item 8. Let me double check and make sure we have everyone that we need for item 8. And that would be Mr. Heath.
Present, Madam Chair.
Wonderful. Mr. Antonetti.
Good morning, Madam Chairman. Arthur Horn on behalf of Scipio Horn here for Robert Anthony. I should be signed up for this as well.
We had you next, yeah, to call. Okay, so we're doing the this switcheroo here. Okay, so we got Mr. Horn. I have the rest of the folks signed up. Are Mr. Ferrante?
Here, Madam Chair.
Okay, wonderful. Rachel Leitzinger.
Here.
Bassem Katan. No, not signed up. Okay. Mr. Rivera on this one too. He signed up on this. Okay. No. Okay. And then we had Marvin Joe Camp on this one.
Here, Madam Chair.
Okay. Thank you. All right, Mr. Heath, you're on.
All right. Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. For the record, I'm Antoine Heath with the subdivision section. Item number 8 is an extension request for a preliminary plan of subdivision 4-05080 Smith Home Farm. This preliminary plan was approved on July 27th, 2006, and the expiration date is December 31st, 2021, due to a prior legislative extensions of the validity period by the County Council. By letter dated October 14th, 2021, the applicant's representative, Robert Antonetti, requested a 2-year extension of the plan's approval. This is the applicant's first extension request. If this request is approved, the plan will be valid through December 31st, 2023. The preliminary plan of subdivision approved 1,176 lots and 355 parcels for the development of 3,648 dwelling units and 140,000 square feet of commercial development. Subject to section 24-119D6A of the subdivision regulations. That subdivision regulation authorizes the planning board to grant an extension of the normal expiration of a preliminary plan of subdivision if certain criteria are met. For this preliminary plan of subdivision, the applicant has to comply with at least one of the 3 criteria, and these are listed in the staff memo. Staff finds that the criteria under subsection A1 have been met, and pursuant to the findings in staff memo, staff recommends approval of the 2-year extension for the preliminary plan of subdivision 4-05080 Smith Home Farm. This concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Heath. Let's see if the board has any questions of you at this time. Madam Vice Chair?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Washington?
No questions.
Commissioner Dorner?
No questions.
And Commissioner Giraldo?
No questions, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Horn. You're on.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Madam Chairman, members of the planning board. For the record, Arthur Horn, the law office of Scipio Horn in Largo, Maryland. Very pleased to be here this morning representing the property owner, which is now SHF Property Owner LLC, represented by Mr. Bassem Katan as general manager, who I guess is not signed up, but also our civil engineer is here from Dewberry, Ms. Rachel Leitzinger. I am here in place of my partner, Robert Antonetti, who works primarily on the case. He is at a funeral this morning, Madam Chairman. That's why he is not able to be here this morning, but he extends his best wishes to everyone. And you mentioned there's other attorneys who were signed up for it as well, because Smith Home Farm was the one initially in this overall 757-acre parcel, but as indicated, they do still have some ownership within the Parkside overall development, so they're here in support of it as well. I just want to thank Mr. Anton Heath for his review of the application. We do believe that we have, as he indicated, we're only required to meet one of the 3 criteria. We have met it. The criteria, the extensive infrastructure that has been spent over the years. As you know, we've been before this board on several occasions over the last few years, indicating that this Parkside was the #1 development in the state of Maryland as far as moving forward, building houses and getting ready for the commercial. So there's been no delay by the application in this, by the applicants in this application process. I do want to say as an aside, I'm not trying to be greedy. I do think that in the application, we actually meet all three criteria, not just the one. I think, you know, in the future, as you hear from projects within the Westphalia, you might note that the interchange at Suitland Parkway was delayed for years. And so that criteria has caused some delays for others as well as this project. And, you know, we have been through a recession and also COVID now. So the applicant has been diligently proceeding, but through no fault of his own, through these extraordinary circumstances, there has been a need to extend the preliminary plan for additional 2 years. But in any event, we do meet the one criteria. I just want to mention the others are out there, and you know, we just appreciate the opportunity to move forward. So thank you very much. We agree with staff's recommendation and ask the board to support it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Horn. So I'm not sure if there's any questions. I'm going to look to our board and see if there's any questions. But and then I'm going to go to the others who are signed up. Now, I will tell you this. You mentioned Bassam Katan. He did sign up to speak, but he's just not on for whatever.
It's not necessary. It is.
Okay.
He and both Ms. Letzinger are here if any have any questions.
Okay, wonderful. And then Mr. Ferrante is here for questions as well.
Yes, he is. My apologies. I forgot Mr. Ferrante signed up.
Okay. All right. And then Mr. Rivera was not on, right? You want to check again? He's still not on. Okay. Ms. Camp?
Hi, good morning, Madam Chair, members of the Planning Board. Let me first congratulate you, Madam Chair, on a well-deserved award. They could not give you enough awards for all that you've done for our community. So congratulations and happy holidays. My name for the record is Marva Jo Camp. I'm an attorney with the law offices of Marva Jo Camp in Mitchellville, Maryland. I am representing the Section 7 contract purchaser on Parkside, and to express our support for the extension. And I just want to say to something that Attorney Horn mentioned, I was the original attorney on the Smith Home Farm approval, and to watch the progression of this project is a testament to this community and what we've done in the Westphalia area. And so I am again happy to support the extension. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Camp. I am now going to turn to our board and see if they had any questions of either Mr. Horn or Ms. Camp. Madam Vice Chair.
No questions.
Commissioner Washington.
No questions.
Commissioner Dorner.
No questions.
Commissioner Giraldo.
No questions, but I wanted to thank Shipley and Horn for the iPad that they donated to the Prince George's County Bar Association silent auction.
You're quite welcome.
Thank you. Okay. Okay, with that, and there are no other speakers, is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt the findings of staff and approve the 2-year extension for preliminary plan 4-05080.
We have a motion. We have a motion by Commissioner Washington, seconded by Commissioner Giraldo. Madam Vice Chair.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Washington.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
And Commissioner Giraldo.
Vote aye, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. The ayes have it 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So the next item is item 9, which is also an extension request. It's preliminary plan of subdivision 4-07005 TBLU property. Mr. Heath, you are still with us. Mr. Ship.
Here.
Okay,
Good
there
morning.
you are. Good morning. And Mr. Heath, you are on.
All right. Good morning again, Madam Chair, members of the board. Antoine Heath with the subdivision section. This is an extension request for a preliminary plan of subdivision 4-07005 TLBU property, otherwise known as Cantor Creek. This preliminary plan was approved on October 29, 2009, and the expiration date is December 31st, 2021, due to prior legislative extensions of the validity period by County Council. By letter dated October 26, 2021, the applicant's representative, William Ship, requested a 6-year extension of the plan's approval to December 31st, 2027. This is the applicant's first extension request. This preliminary plan of subdivision approved 410 lots and 8 parcels for the development of 410 detached single-family dwellings. In accordance with section 24-119 D6B of the subdivision regulations, as amended by Council Bill CB-93-2021, the planning board has the authority to grant an extension of the normal expiration of a preliminary plan of subdivision if certain criteria are met. For this preliminary plan of subdivision, the applicant has to comply with at least one of the 3 criteria, and these are listed in the staff memo. Staff finds that criteria under subsection B1 have been met. However, section 24-119 D6C of the subdivision regulations does not permit approval of 6-year extensions prior to January 1st, 2022. As a result, staff is recommending approval of a 2-year extension for the preliminary plan of subdivision 4-07005 TLBU property. This concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Heath. So let's go to Mr. Shipp.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. William Shipp here with O'Malley Miles on behalf of the applicant. First of all, I want to thank Mr. Heath and his team. They did an excellent job. I know they're getting a bunch of these requests and they're doing a great job processing them. And as for the 6-year question, that was based upon the pending legislation. And when we filed our request, we didn't know where we'd be ending up with timing. So we covered our bases. We understand the status of that legislation and are in agreement with the recommendation of a 2-year approval. Since this project started out, has a different name on it, as you may know from had a different history. But since my client took it over, they have been actively and diligently working through the phases. They are really close to platting phase 3, and we'll be moving into phase 4 shortly. There's 4 phases. So we appreciate the consideration of the extension that will help this project get completed. There's lots of infrastructure that's already been done within the project and on Frank Tippett Road, and we appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Shipp. And thank you for referencing the changed name. You know, it's so funny. There are developments all over the county, and the county is huge, as you know. And so many of us who long timers are familiar with the names. And then when all the names or a good chunk of the names start getting changed, I'm like, oh no, now I got to remember all new names. But I'm working on it for the next couple of months that I have. So I'm working on it. So thank you for that. Let's see if there are any questions of Mr. Shipp at this time. Madam Vice Chair.
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Washington.
Questions?
And Commissioner Dorner.
No questions.
And Commissioner Geraldo.
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Shipp.
Okay, so saying no questions and no other speakers, is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt the findings of staff and approve the 2-year extension of preliminary plan 4-07005.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Motion by Commissioner Washington, seconded by Madam Vice Chair. Madam Vice Chair.
Aye.
Commissioner Washington.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
And Commissioner Geraldo.
Vote aye.
The ayes have it 5-0. Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Heath and Mr. Shipp, stay right where you are. We have item 10. We have another extension request, preliminary plan of subdivision 4-08002 Westphalia Center. I see we have all the parties there. Mr. Rivera, can we check and see if Mr. Rivera is here? Has joined us again. Okay, and Ms. Camp? Are you not on this one? Ms. Camp? Oh yeah, there she is. Ms. Camp? Okay, we see your name, but we don't hear anything. But okay, so Mr. Heath, you're on.
All right. Good morning again. For the record, Antoine Heath. This is an extension request for a preliminary plan of subdivision 4-08002 Westphalia Center. This preliminary plan was approved on June 4th of 2009, and the expiration date is December 31st, 2021. By letter dated October 26, 2021, the applicant's representative, William Shipp, requested a 6-year extension of the plan's approval to December 31st, 2027. And this is the applicant's first extension request. This preliminary plan of subdivision approved 1,352 lots and 211 parcels for the development of 4,356 dwelling units and 5.9 million square feet of commercial use. In accordance with section 24-119 D6B of the subdivision regulations as amended by County Council Bill CB-93-2021, the planning board has the authority to grant an extension request of the normal expiration date if certain criteria are met. For this preliminary plan of subdivision, the applicant has to comply with at least 3 of the criteria, and these are listed in the staff memo. Staff finds that criteria under subsection B1 have been met. But however, due to section 24-119 D6B of the subdivision regulations, a 6-year extension cannot be approved until January 1st, 2022. As a result, staff is recommending approval of a 2-year extension for preliminary plan of subdivision 4-08002 Westphalia Center. This concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Heath. So I'm going to turn now to Mr. Shipp. I do understand that Mr. Rivera has joined us now at this point. Okay, so Mr. Shipp
And
first.
I'm there too, Madam Chair. I'm sorry,
Okay,
Margaret.
Okay, all right, good. All right, so Mr. Shipp first.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Again, for the record, William Shipp with O'Malley Miles and Greenbelt. Here on behalf of the Walton Companies, you see on your sign-up list a couple of my colleague attorneys who represent some of the builders within Westphalia Town Center. We are respectfully requesting the extension of the preliminary plan. We understand just for the record, the coordination issues with the new legislation that we're only at this point entitled to request a 2-year. We're agreeable to that. Westphalia Town Center, as you heard eloquently from my colleague, Mr. Horn, is part of the greater Westphalia area. Those 2 projects are very, very large, are coming together quite nicely now. In fact, pretty soon, I think you'll start to see them kind of grow together as sections get completed. We have some of the same issues that Mr. Horn mentioned, considering delays in the state project Suitland, but we have been actively engaged in building out the Woodyard Road interchange, lots of road infrastructure within the project, and in fact, a county TIF has been issued to fund Presidential Parkway, which is under construction through the full spine of the project. The project's very large, will take very long time, but we are pursuing it diligently and actively, and we respectfully request approval of the extension. And I'm here to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Shipp. Before I go to you, let's hear from all the attorneys at this point. So let's start with Mr. Rivera.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm here in support, as Mr. Shipp said, along with our sister project at Smith Home Farm Parkside. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. Nice background. Okay. Ms. Camp.
I had trouble with that.
Again, Marva Jo Camp with law offices of Marva Jo Camp in Mitchellville, Maryland, representing one of the contract purchasers in Westphalia Center in support of the extension.
Thank you, Ms. Camp. So let's see if the board has any questions of Mr. Shipp, Mr. Rivera, or Ms. Camp. Madam Vice Chair? Madam Vice Chair?
Muted.
Muted again. No question.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Washington?
No questions. Thank you all.
Commissioner Dorner?
No questions.
And Commissioner Giraldo?
I have no questions, Madam Chair. Thank the council for appearing.
Okay, so there you have it. So is there a motion?
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt the findings of staff and approve the 2-year extension for preliminary plan 4-08002.
We have a motion by Commissioner Washington, seconded by Madam Vice Chair. Madam Vice Chair.
But aye.
Commissioner Washington.
But aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
and Commissioner Giraldo.
Vote aye, Madam Chair.
Thank you. The ayes have it. Now that this case is over, I do want to take a moment to say, to thank Mr. Shipp and to thank Mr. Rivera for their wonderful ads in the J. Franklin Bourne Bar Association banquet.
Well,
36th
as Ms. Camp said, the recognition that you're getting is well-deserved and cannot be overstated.
Thank you so very much. I'm glad I'm alive. It's on the all on this side of the dirt, you know. Okay, but thank you.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Thank you. Same to you.
Thank you.
So the next item on our agenda is item 5. So it is mandatory referral 2108F as in Frank, Claggett Landing Solar Array. Ms. Hassan,
Yes, good morning.
good morning. And Mr. Tedesco,
Good morning, Madam Chair. I'm present.
good morning. And Mr. Steve Nelson,
Good morning, Madam Chair. This is Steve Nelson.
and wonderful. And then we have applicants exhibit number 1, which consists of their revised recommendations. So with that, Ms. Hassan, you are on.
Okay, Madam Chair, Planning Board members, for the record, Fatima Hassan, Special Projects Section, Countywide Planning. This mandatory referral review is for MR 2108F, 16900 Claggett Landing Road Solar Project in Upper Marlboro. That is construction of a solar energy system to generate 1.63 megawatts of alternating current into the electric power grid. And for the purposes of this presentation, based on maps and documents, we are using 1G in Claggett. Next
Right.
slide, please.
Ms. Hassan, are you on camera or no? I mean, I don't see you.
There, can you see me now?
Well, I see. Yeah, okay, there we are. Okay, good. Okay, thank you.
Okay. The site is located in Councilmanic District 4 and Planning Area 74B, Collington and vicinity. It's in the Priority Preservation Area, which is part of the Rural and Agricultural Area of the county. Next slide, please. Parcel 132 is east of Robert Crane Highway, US 301. The site is bounded on the north by woodlands with single-family detached homes beyond, to the east by agricultural land and single-family homes, and to the south by undeveloped single-family lots and woodlands, and to the west by single-family homes and a landscape nursery business. Next slide, please. The property is zoned RA, residential agricultural. According to the Solar Energy System guidelines, this is one of the least desirable zones for a solar project. Next slide. Next slide, please. The aerial shows that the property is a working farm, promised landing farm, with crop production and pasture uses for the last 30 years. Because it is in the RA zone, which affects agricultural land, it is subject to additional guidelines, which I will discuss next. Next slide, please. Regarding some of the environmental features, the proposed project is in the Patuxent River Middle 8-digit watershed. And the Soil Conservation District submitted a custom soil resource report with a soils analysis that indicates that the proposed project will impact prime farmland and farmland of statewide importance. That is class 2 and 3 soils. These impacts are not desirable and are strongly discouraged. Preference for using the least productive soils, class 4 through 8, is a guideline that is not met. The consideration of a dual-use land design concept helps preserve productive farmland and could include continued crop production, maintaining and grazing livestock, or maintaining and planting an herbaceous cover with pollinator value. The applicant has proposed pollinator plants under the solar array, which responds to the guidelines for preserving productive farmland. Next slide, please. The proposed site is off of Claggett Landing Road and is not within or adjacent to any master plan roads. The solar arrays will not disrupt traffic operations or impact motor vehicle access or circulation on Claggett Landing Road or on the property. Next slide, please. The proposed project consists of approximately 5,000 solar panels established under the BGE Community Solar Program, a 1.60 megawatt alternating current photovoltaic solar array that will operate during daylight hours. The estimated useful lifetime is 30 years or more. The lease on the subject property for use is for 20 years with 2 10-year extensions. The array is proposed to be installed using a single-axis tracking ground-mounted racking system. On-site access to the solar array is proposed via an existing private driveway off of Claggett Landing Road. The project area includes a buffer area between the solar panels and security fencing, which would consist of an 8-foot-high woven wire agricultural fence with wooden posts and locked gate. Next slide. Okay, staff received modifications to the recommendations from the applicant, and we are okay with the proposed changes. So I'm just going to highlight some of the recommendations here. Staff recommends that the applicant should use native species, including grasses and/or herbaceous seed mix with pollinator value, and should provide a written statement confirming the pollinator plants that the applicant agrees are practical to implement for the proposed project. These sources, there are 3 sources that were provided. The Natural Resources Conservation Services Table 2, a list of solar pollinator mix provided by the Soil Conservation District, and a native plant finder tool has been provided by staff. Next slide, please. Staff recommends that if the dual use concept is not implemented, the applicant should provide additional mitigation for the loss of productive soil in accordance with the Planning Board's siting preference hierarchy guidelines. Staff recommends that perimeter fencing should be black, vinyl-clad, chain-link fencing materials not exceeding 7 feet in height. Any impacts to the primary management areas should be mitigated to the fullest extent practicable on site. And staff recommends conducting phase 1 identification archaeological investigations as well. Next slide, please. These are the subsequent recommendations to follow if potentially significant archaeological resources are found. Staff recommends that the Planning Board adopt the revised staff recommendations and transmit them to the applicant. This concludes staff presentation, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have for me, Madam Chair and Planning Board members. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Ms. Hassan. So let's see if there are any questions at this point in time. Madam Vice Chair?
No questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Washington?
No questions. Thank you, Ms. Hassan.
Okay. And Commissioner Dorner?
Yeah, just a quick question on the recommendations. So I was happy to see the insertion of removed caterpillars because I've kind of gotten into raising them. I didn't think about them being food for native birds, but that's great. Everything's a circle. It kind of pains me to think about my butterflies getting eaten up though. But the one thing that I did want to ask about was the flowers that could be potentially for bees or other native species. Are we not asking for those kinds of aspects of the pollinators, or is that just sort of assume that the pollinators would be helpful for bee populations as well?
I believe it's assumed that the pollinators would be helpful for the bees, and it's part of the pollination process. I would defer to environmental planning, but yes, we welcome the pollinators for the bees to preserve the bees.
Okay, maybe we can ask the environmental plants just to see. Like, I don't know if certain pollinator plants are better for bees or not.
Okay. Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we get them on? Because I didn't have them on this case necessarily, but we can get them on. And if you have any other questions, we can go forward while we're getting environmental on. Okay.
Madam Chair, this is Megan Reiser from Environmental Planning.
Okay, wonderful.
Right. So the pollinator species that we typically look for on these solar projects are specifically geared toward bees. There are specific mixes that are specific for bee habitat, but the butterflies are also very closely linked, and so a lot of the species kind of overlap for both purposes.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
Okay, and then that was it for you, Commissioner Dorner, right? Okay, Commissioner Giraldo.
Yes, with regards to the revised recommendations. So Mrs. Hassan, why did you change the word from shall to should?
Go ahead.
You mean Mr. Tedesco's recommendation?
Right, and I'm assuming, but she said they agreed to it.
They did agree to it. So she did. I just was emphasizing that he changed it, but okay. You want to indicate you agree to it? Okay.
Yes.
Right. Why would we agree from a mandatory to a judgment?
Because the staff agreed because should is more consistent with the concept of recommendations. And these are recommendations and guidelines. And so shall is more specific to things that must be done. That's the implication of shall. So, and should is also the language that is used in the guidelines document. Should or is recommended.
Okay.
And mandatory. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. Go ahead.
No, I was saying it's a mandatory referral. They don't have to abide by any of our recommendations.
I understand that. Okay, that was my question. I mean,
well, Mr. Tedesco, you hear the question, so maybe you can elaborate. Okay.
I'm happy to respond to Commissioner Giraldo.
Okay. So was that your only question at this time, Commissioner Giraldo?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay. So, Mr. Tedesco, you're on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Matthew Tedesco at the law firm of McNamee Hosey and Greenbelt, on behalf of the applicant SGC Power LLC, represented here this morning by Mr. Steve Nelson, who is with us and available to answer any questions that the board may have, if there are any, after I'm concluded. First and foremost, congratulations to you, Madam Chair, for your award. I would hate to not get that out there, in this case conclude, without me being able to say that. So congratulations, and I echo my colleagues' sentiments with respect to well-deserved, and as Mr. Shipp said, not enough awards and Ms. Trevor Marvin Camp, not enough awards to give you to represent your impact, not only on this county and the citizens, but I will speak for all of us as practitioners as well. And I speak for myself when I say that. So I hope to have many more opportunities to present before you, but I wanted to at least get that out there now, since the year is drawing to an end. You've been amazingly influential on all of us, and I want to thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tedesco. I appreciate that.
As it relates to this particular case, I want to thank Ms. Hassan for her very thorough review. This was the first opportunity that I've had to work with Ms. Hassan, although I've handled a number of these mandatory referrals, not only from solar projects, but large energy projects, power plants, etc. And I want to say it's been an absolute pleasure working with Ms. Hassan. She's been extremely responsive and extremely thorough in her review of this application. I also want to thank staff in their consideration of our requested modifications to the recommendations. As Madam Chair indicated, this is a mandatory referral. This board is quite familiar with mandatory referrals and fully understands the law around mandatory referrals. I don't think I need to go into it. It's been vetted on many cases, primarily cases that are opposed. This case is not. There was a very thorough outreach done by your staff. I think there was over 170 plus mailings to registered homeowners associations, to include homeowners associations in this area, as well as all the adjoining property owners. And we received no feedback from anybody. Staff received no feedback from anybody. And primarily, I think that's a compliment to my clients' site selection of this facility among other facilities that they have done in the county. This array is located on an area that really exceeds 100 acres, It's about 11 acres of 35 plus or minus acres of the parcels, but in total, it's an over 100-acre site, and it sits on about 11 acres of it, wholly screened, not visible from Claggett Landing Road. Will not be visible for any adjoining property owners. We put this in our narrative, which I would further incorporate and adopt here today, but it's just to give it some perspective, it's over 1,800 feet from Claggett Landing Road, which is to the south. It's over 1,300 feet from Claggett Knolls and Claggett Landing Estates, which is to the west. 269 feet from Queen Anne Estates to the north, and 296 feet, more than 296 feet from a single-family residential lot to the east. Very well screened, very well, will not have any negative impacts. As it relates to the pollinator, well, let me strike that. As it relates to the question on shall versus should, as a mandatory referral and as provided in your guidelines, these are all recommendations. I will say, however, notwithstanding, it is my client's intent to adhere to the recommendations as provided. Nevertheless, they are recommendations, and they should be consistent not only with that as being shoulds, but as well as in your guidelines. All of those are preferenced by, as Ms. Hassan correctly indicated, the should. And so with that, we felt it was necessary to revise the conditions so that they were consistent not only with the guidelines, but also with the law with respect to this being a mandatory referral, and also consistent with every other mandatory referral case that I've handled. That has been the constant theme as a recommendation. I will just state for the record also, it is our intent to use the dual herbaceous pollinators value, which does satisfy the criteria. Regarding the soils, I know that was an issue for SDC. We did meet with them. They did provide us with solar pollinator mixes that we are reviewing, as well as the mixes that are recommended in recommendation 2A. So we will implement one of those for sure. And I want to thank SDC for its review and its recommendations on this case. With that, Madam Chair, we really don't have anything further to add. I will note just for the record that regarding the fence, staff had recommended that we reduce the height of the fence. We don't have any objection to that. I will note that another SGC project to the north, the fence that was actually constructed on there was just over 7 feet tall. There was no recommendation for that fence to be reduced. The National Electric Code Article 110.31 requires that these facilities be enclosed with a fence of at least 7 feet. So on this application, we showed 8. I don't think we have any objection to reducing that slightly. I do want to state for the record that although staff is recommending the chain link fence, I will note that your recommendations say chain link or equivalent. We have used on other applications the mesh agricultural mesh fencing, which we do propose for this application, and do intend to use the agricultural mesh consistent with other projects. And we do believe that that satisfies the or equivalent language. Nevertheless, we understand the recommendation suggests or chain link. With that, Madam Chair, we would submit and respectfully request your recommendation consistent with our exhibit.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tedesco. Okay, Ms. Hassan, do you care to respond to the fence matter that Mr. Tedesco pointed out?
Thank you, Madam Chair. No, I think that is sufficient. His explanation, so I'm fine with that. And congratulations on your award, Madam Chair, as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, so let's see if the board has any questions of you, Mr. Tedesco. Let's start with Madam Vice Chair.
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Washington.
More questions, thank you.
Commissioner Doerner.
Yeah, can you just describe what the agricultural mesh looks like, or how that would differ? I assume that like the chain link is sort of like the diamond looking squares, and then the agricultural mesh is almost just like vertical squares, maybe a different material, but I just wanted to know kind of what you're thinking about.
I think you described it exactly right, Commissioner Dorner. It would be a metal, like chain link. It would be metal. It wouldn't be a shiny. It would be a muted metal. But yes, it would be more vertical, square-like instead of the diamond like a chain link. And there's a detail of it on the site plan. I don't know if it's in your PowerPoint, but it is in the record, and it's consistent with other. It's wood post. It is consistent with the array that we did a little further to the north on Queen Anne Bridge Road, and so it's more of the agricultural feature which you would see on a farm, for example, with the vertical wire mesh instead of the chain link diamond mesh.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and that's it. Okay, Commissioner Geraldo.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Tedesco. I'm aware that it's recommendations that we make, but I just wanted to see what your client's intention was. And I'm glad that you said, you put it on the record that they intend to follow the recommendations.
Yeah, absolutely. I did neglect to also say, I think in our report we had mentioned, and Mr. Nelson can support this if needed, but one of the things we talked about, and I know because of the soils, the herbaceous land cover, dual pollinator is a significant issue in this case. We intend to also raise the racking a little bit of the solar panels. I think in the report, in our report, we had put a minimum 2 feet cover clearance. I think we're going to increase that to over to 2.5 feet. That'll give the pollinators even more room to grow and do what they're intended to do. So yeah, it is our intent. Like I said, I did want to just clarify the fencing because of all the recommendations. That's the one we would like to adhere to with what's proposed. All the other recommendations we do intend to follow.
Thank you, Mr. Tedesco.
Okay, thank you. So that concludes the questions. Mr. Nelson, would you care to speak?
Yeah, hi, this is Steve Nelson with SGC Power. I think Matt Tedesco covered everything quite well. And kind of like he touched upon, we fully support the dual use approach to the soils. And so if we need to raise the panels in order to promote proper pollination, that's our intention, is actually to go ahead and move forward with it. So it's more expensive, but obviously our goal is to have effective pollination and not just check a box. So we are looking to comply with all the recommendations.
Okay, so Mr. Nelson, we appreciate your comments as well. So I don't know if the board could show me by show of hands whether you had any comments from Mr. Nelson. And it seems no. Okay, thank you. So that concludes the sign-up list. Ms. Hassan, anything else to add?
No, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. We're ready for a motion then. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the review and analysis as provided by staff and adopt the recommendations of staff and as modified by applicant exhibit number 1 with one minor correction to recommendation number 3. And I'm referring to applicant exhibit number 1, that first line, if the dual use concept is not implemented, the applicant should, and we should strike 2 after that. So the applicant should provide, just strike the TO. Sorry for being such a grammatical person here. And with that, Madam Chair, approve transmittal of MR 2108F to Mr. Steve Nelson with SGC Power, LLC.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Washington and a second by Vice Chair Bailey. Madam Vice Chair.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Washington.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
And Commissioner Geraldo.
Now, Commissioner Washington, I know that you are a grammar person, so can we just amend it and have a space between the proposed?
I'm sorry. Say that again, Commissioner Geraldo.
Okay, and number 2, to have a space between the and proposed project.
Okay, but you know, those kind of things we can do a little bit offline, we can correct, but okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we got it here. Okay. So with that, so we have a motion and we have a second. Okay, and everyone has said aye, correct, and that was an aye for you as well, right, Commissioner Geraldo? Okay, so the ayes have it 5-0. Thank you so very much. Okay, everyone. Okay, and thank you, Mr. Tedesco and Ms. Hassan. So the next item on our agenda is item 6. Item 6 is detailed site plan 19017, the enclave at Westphalia. So let's start with, so this was Mr. Bossi's case. He is still with the family, but went over to the Montgomery County side of the commission. But we do have Rachel Gwynn, who is going to present for us. So Ms. Gwynn, you're on. Mr. Haller, we see you.
Morning.
David, good morning. Mr. Bickle.
I am present, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Wonderful. Daniel Jackson.
Here. Good morning.
Good morning. Kevin Setzer.
Present. Good morning.
Wonderful. Good morning. Brandon Gurney.
Good morning, Madam Chair.
Wonderful. Okay, so Ms. Gwynn, you are on.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the Planning Board. For the record, I am Rachel Gwynn with the Urban Design Section. The item before you is item 6, detailed site plan DSP-19017 and TCP2-032-2021 for Enclave at Westphalia. The application proposes the development of a new residential neighborhood of 356 single-family attached dwelling units. Slide 2, please. The subject property is in Planning Area 78 and Council District 6. Slide 3, please. Outlined in red, the 68.7 acre subject site is located 3/4 of a mile north of the intersection of Maryland 4, Pennsylvania Avenue, and Woodyard Road. Slide 4, please. The subject site is in the mixed-use transportation-oriented zone. It is bounded on the north by the ongoing Parkside residential development in the residential medium development zone. On the east side is a power line corridor and residential developments in the rural residential and rural agricultural zones. To the south is a residential development in the residential agricultural zone. And to the west is Melwood Road and vacant land in the mixed-use transportation-oriented zone, proposed to be developed with residential units. Slide 5, please. The site is entirely located within the military installation overlay zone for height. Slide 6, please. The subject site is in the town center area of the Westphalia sector plan and sectional map amendment. At the center of the subject site is an existing building and series of outbuildings associated with the site's former use as the German Orphan Home of Washington. The remainder of the site is predominantly forested. Slide 7, please. As shown on this topographic map, the site includes irregular and steep slopes around which the proposal has been designed. Slide 8, please. North of the subject site is a future public street, Bridal Veil Road, which is to be constructed as part of the Parkside development to the north. The timing of the development of the subject site is dependent upon completion of this road. The proposal anticipates development to be constructed in a single phase, beginning on either the eastern or western side of the site, depending on which side of the property has road access first. Slide 9, please. The subject DSP proposes development of a new townhouse community in 3 pods in the western, central, and eastern areas of the site. The site layout includes an internal network of private roads, alleys, sidewalks, and recreational facilities with 2 access points from Bridal Veil Road. 5-foot wide sidewalks are provided on both sides of all internal streets, and an 8-foot wide shared use path provides additional circulation throughout the site. Most of the townhomes are front-loaded as the applicant prioritized preserving environmental features over providing rear alleyways. As detailed on finding D on page 16 of the staff report, staff has found the overall site design to be acceptable. The layout is also in conformance with the preliminary plan of subdivision approved earlier this year on April 8th, 2021, and the conceptual site plan, which was approved on May 7th, 2020. Slide 10, please. 3 townhouse unit types are proposed, ranging from 1,943 square feet to 2,203 square feet. The 3-story, 2-car garage units will come in multiple facade variations and incorporate a variety of materials. Gabled roofs, bay windows, dormers, awnings, and other architectural details are included in the facade design. All models are proposed with various options, including deck and loft spaces. The first model shown here, the Delilah, is the second largest of the units proposed with a base finished floor area of 2,150 square feet. These are rear-loaded units and account for 28 of the 356 proposed units. Slide 11, please. Here we see the side and rear elevations for the Delilah model with various options. Slide 12, please. The Jenkins model is the smallest unit proposed with a base finished floor area of 1,943 square feet. The Jenkins model is rear-loaded and accounts for 74 of the proposed units. Slide 13, please. Here we see the side and rear elevations for the Jenkins model with various options. Slide 14, please. The Louisa model is the largest unit proposed with a base finished floor area of 2,203 square feet. This unit is front-loaded and accounts for the majority of the townhomes proposed at 254 units. Slide 15, please. And here we see the side and rear elevations for the Louisa model with various options. Slide 16, please. This slide shows the location and distribution of brick frontage throughout the site. 247 units will have 60% brick coverage on the front facade, 85 units will have 80% brick coverage, and 24 units will have 100% brick coverage. Appropriate end units are shown as having either high or medium visibility side elevations and will include 3 or 1 level finished in brick respectively. Slide 17, please. The proposal includes 10 recreational facilities spread throughout the site, including tot lots, seating areas, picnic areas, outdoor gathering areas, and a dog park. All recreation facilities include dog waste bag stations, trash receptacles, and bicycle racks. Slide 18, please. The TCP2 submitted with this DSP shows 7 impacts to the regulated environmental features on site, of which impacts 2, 5, 6, and 7 are consistent with the previously approved preliminary plan. Impacts 1, 3, and 4 have been modified by this DSP. Staff finds the TCP2 acceptable, subject to technical revisions as recommended by the staff report. Slide 19, please. With that, the urban design section recommends that the planning board adopt the findings and conditions of the technical staff report and approve detailed site plan DSP-19017 and TCP2-032-2021 for Enclave at Westphalia. This concludes staff's presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Gwynn. I'm going to see if there are questions of you at this time, and then, and I'm sure, I know there are going to be questions of the applicant. So I know that's coming. So let's see if there's any questions of Ms. Gwynn at this time. Madam Vice Chair?
Yeah, well done, Ms. Gwynn, but would you go back to the brick coverage for each unit? I got lost someplace there.
Yes, that was slide 16.
Yeah.
So the streets you see marked in blue will have, sorry, the slide is so small, just a moment.
No, I think you had another screen up when you were doing that. Oh yeah, that's it.
So I'm just bringing up the presentation so I can zoom in.
Can you zoom in? I thought Mr. Flanagan has to zoom in. Over here.
Oh, Mr. Flanagan, could you zoom in to the legend there so we can read it?
The legend, yeah, okay.
And then just scroll down a little bit. Okay. So the streets in blue are the frontages that will have 60% brick coverage. So that's the majority of units.
I mean, he's trying to get to the blues at the top, see? In the
60%, all right.
Sorry, the dark blue. Sorry, I'm starting from the
dark blue? I'm sorry. Oh, it looks purple, Harris. I see what you're saying.
Oh,
okay.
sorry, yes. And then the beige pinky color is the 80% brick coverage on the front facade. And then light blue is the 100% brick coverage on the front facade. And then the units you see marked in the fuchsia color are the high visibility end units and will have one level finished in brick. And then the orangey red units you see will have 3 levels finished in brick on the side.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Thank you.
The high visibility is that fuchsia magenta color, right? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so any other questions, Madam Vice Chair?
No questions. No more questions.
Okay, Commissioner Washington.
No questions. Nice job, Ms. Quinn.
Okay, and Commissioner Dorner.
So now you're gonna have to start using the phrase of coming in for a smooth landing. But yeah, you did a great job. So nice
Yeah.
work.
Thank you. And then we go to Commissioner Giraldo. Now, I know you're going to have a question. You're muted. I know you're going to have a question of the applicant when they start, but.
For the applicant, yes. For Ms. Quinn, I just want to thank her for a great presentation.
Okay.
No questions.
Thank you so much. Mr. Haller, there you are. So before you start, I just want to tell you, I was going through this and yesterday, and I was looking at the staff report on page 8 and then juxtaposing that with slide 17 of the PowerPoint presentation, so I could see exactly what all these recreation facilities were and where they were. And there's a lot of really good facilities, and you know you're going to get a question from Commissioner Giraldo. And the second thing I was going to point out was that I found myself, I was in my office, thank goodness the door was closed because I was looking at these models, and I found myself channeling Tom Jones, you know, and I know you will understand why. Okay. All right, Mr. Haller, you are on.
Well, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Good morning, and to the members of the Planning Board as well. Thomas Haller, Attorney with Office in Largo, here on behalf of the applicant and owner of the property. I would be remiss if I did not also start with providing my own congratulations to the chair for her award. With almost any other person getting this many congratulatory comments, it might go to their head, but we know Madam Chair is such a humble person that will not happen. But the awards are very, very well deserved, and I want to congratulate you again. I also want to thank Adam Bossi for his assistance in working with us on this application. We've been working with him from the original review of the conceptual site plan, which occurred in 2020, through the review of the subdivision, and now onto the detailed site plan. He passed the case on to Rachel just in the last couple of weeks, but she has taken the case like a gold medal winning relay race. She's taken it right up, and she did a great job with the presentation. So I want to thank her as well for her assistance. I do want to mention, and I think you called their names, we have several members from our team here that are capable of answering questions. We have Kevin Setzers representing the ownership group. We have Brandon Gurney and Dan Jackson representing Stanley Martin Homes. And we have David Bickle from Soltez as well. And I do want to start my presentation by saying we have no objections to the staff recommendation. We have no proposed changes to the staff conditions. So we are in full agreement with the recommendation and the conditions. Just as a little bit of background, the planning board has actually seen this property. I think this is the 6th time in the last 6 years. It was originally came through the approval process with the intention of converting the old German orphans home to a recovery center, drug rehabilitation center. That proposal never proceeded, and the property is now proposed for a residential development to be integrated into the larger Westphalia project. As you can see, the access to this project is proposed from Master Plan Road Network within the Westphalia Center plan and Smith Home Farms, as opposed to Westphalia Road. And as we have seen, as this project has evolved from conceptual site plan to preliminary plan to detailed site plan, the natural features of this site break the project up into 3 different development enclaves or pods, and allow for the units to be constructed so that they either front on or back up to retained woodlands in many instances. And one of the challenges in this case, and this is a good exhibit to be able to reference this, is the desire to spread recreational facilities throughout the community. There is this exhibit in the PowerPoint presentation, but we also submitted an exhibit that provided images of what each of the recreational areas would include. And we have a number of really exciting features, not only children's playgrounds, but fire features and trails that connect all of the development pods. So this will have to be a community with a robust number of recreational facilities and will work well within the entire Westphalia development and be a very high quality development. So as I mentioned earlier, we are in full agreement with the staff's recommendation. So we do have our team members available to answer questions, but I will conclude my presentation and just let the board know that we are available to answer any questions.
Okay, Mr. Haller, you mentioned, I guess I'm trying to find the rec facility. You said you had an exhibit. Was it in one of the earlier cases? Or
There was an exhibit presented in this case that provides a depiction of each one of the recreational sections or components of each of the 10 components that are included and referenced on this exhibit. So it is in the backup of your case, but it's not actually in the PowerPoint presentation.
Okay. Well, alrighty then. Okay. All right. So, and that's it for you at this juncture. The other thing I had to ask you. So I'm looking at the Delilah on. It was interesting that on slide 11, the elevations there, the side elevations are interesting because they're on opposite ends of the side versus the Jenkins and the Louisa. I was just curious about that. It's just interesting to me, but.
Madam Chair, Brandon Gurney, Stanley Martin.
Okay.
Could you repeat your question? I'm sorry, I don't.
Not really a question. It's like it just seemed. So you have the big wall, like that big space in between the windows. I was just curious about the design. I mean, you do have features there, so I can't comment. I can't criticize for that at all. But it was interesting versus the Louisa and the Jenkins, which are slide 13 and slide 15. The elevations and the windows and treatments are, a little bit more spread out. I just thought it was interesting. I didn't know why that was.
So on that particular floor plan, and I guess before I answer, I want to echo what everybody else has been saying today, which is congratulations. There's not enough awards to go around for everything that you've done.
I think that also means I'm old, but that's okay. Thank you.
I didn't say that.
But that's okay. I'm going to take it because I'm on this side of the dirt. So.
But specific to that floor plan, it largely has, or the end unit that largely has to do with the floor plan and where the stairs are located central to the unit, and then where the kitchen and the cabinets are, and then the bathroom on the third level, which is why you see that space there, because different floor plan features prohibit windows in those locations.
Yeah, thank you. Okay. Okay, thank you so much. All right, so now, Mr. Haller, I figured you were going to answer Mr. Commissioner Giraldo's question, but anyway, it's coming. So I'm going to see what board members have questions for you. So, Madam Vice Chair?
No questions, thank you.
Commissioner Washington?
No, the question regarding the Delilah elevation was my question, so thank you, Madam Chair. No further questions.
Okay. Commissioner Dorner?
No questions.
Okay, here you go, Commissioner Giraldo. You're muted though.
Mr. Howard, thank you. I love the dog park. I have one question. Dogs love to drink water.
Yes, they do.
Will the dog park have water for the dogs?
I guess the answer to that question depends upon whether we have water accessible to that area. And I'm not sure if that may be a question for David Bickle to answer in terms of the proximity of water and whether we can get it into the dog park. David, do you know whether we have water accessible to where the dog park will be?
Actually, I do believe water is running. We do have a water line running there.
Beautiful.
If you show the sheet, if you show that slide again, at least approximately where it'll be.
17, is it 17? Yeah, that one?
That
Is
one.
that
Yeah, so the dog park's located at the bottom of the sheet where it says sheet 7 and yeah, right there. So we do have a water line that runs between the two pods. So I believe that would be a possible connection.
Okay, so it doesn't require it now. Would you guys make that as a proffer that you'll put water in the dog park since the line is going there?
I'm going to leave that up to Stanley Martin.
Yeah, we'll let Mr. Gurney reply to that one.
Mr. Gurney?
Yes, we can put water there.
So are you proffering, so the question was, are you proffering that as a condition?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Thank you so much. No further questions.
The dogs will
Okay.
be happy.
It does, and so will Commissioner Giraldo. Okay, okay. All right, so there are no other questions there. Mr. Haller, so do you want anyone else to speak at this juncture?
No, ma'am, we're just here to answer any questions that the board may have.
Okay, does if the board has no other questions, we're ready for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we adopt the findings of staff and approve DSC-19017 and TCP2-032-2021, along with the associated conditions as outlined in staff's report, in addition to the proffered condition by the applicant to ensure that water and staff and council will make this the appropriate language, but to ensure that water is available for the dogs in the dog park.
Thank you. Ms. Coleman, you got that? We have a motion, okay, by Commissioner Washington, seconded by Commissioner Giraldo. Madam Vice Chair.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Washington.
Vote aye.
And Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye.
And Commissioner Giraldo.
Vote aye, and I want to thank Stanley Martin for that proffer.
And the ayes have it 5-0. Thank you so very much, Ms. Nguyen. Spectacular job. You rose to the occasion big time. Thank you.
Thank
All
you all
right.
very much.
Landing.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Haller, too, for your comments. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is take a 5-minute break. So it is 11:30, maybe 11, well, 10 minutes, 11:40. We'll come back with item 7, okay? Thank you. Maybe turn my mic off. Okay, the Prince George's Planning Board is back in session. We do have item 7, which is the preliminary Bowie, Mitchellville, and vicinity master plan. We have all 5 commissioners back. We have Madam Vice Chair and Commissioners Washington, Dorner, and Giraldo. We have a number of people signed up. I just want to tell you, after consultation with our council, we are going to hear from Mr. Lester and Mr. Rowe. If Mr. Rowe is speaking. And that's pretty much it. So, but I know everyone's interested in listening at this point. So, and Ms. Coleman is here as our legal counsel to represent us in this matter. And with that, I'm going to just double check. We have, did I see Mr. Lester? I don't see Mr. Lester. I see Mr. Rowe. Okay, there we go. All right. So Mr. Lester and Mr. Rowe. I know we have a number of people speaking, so let's get started. Mr. Lester, you are on. Or, okay.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the Planning Board. Thank you for this opportunity to provide an overview of the public testimony received at the joint public hearing on October 2021 for the preliminary Bowie, Mitchellville, and vicinity master plan. My name is Thomas Lester with the Planning Department, Long Range Planning Section, and I'm the project manager for the master plan. Next slide, please. Today, I'll provide a quick overview of the plan boundaries and then the testimony received. I'll discuss the 5 major issues that were raised in the testimony.
Mr. Lester, I need to stop you for a second. I just want to make sure you're going to mention this because I did not mention the exhibits. So we had 2 opponents exhibits and then we have your staff exhibit. You're going to mention that?
Yeah, I'll go over how many exhibits.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
No problem. I'll then cover the proposed amendments to the future land use map, the rural and urban growth boundary, and any changes in the zoning recommendations. I'll then talk about a couple minor issues that were raised. Then I'll go over the next steps in the project and conclude by answering any questions you may have about the presentation or the analysis of testimony submitted. Next slide, please. Just as a reminder, here's the Bowie-Mitchellville vicinity master plan boundaries. It's in the northeastern part of the county and includes the entire city of Bowie, parts of Mitchellville and Collington, and surrounding communities. Next slide, please. So leading up to the joint public hearing on October 4th and between the close of record on October 19th, we did receive 31 pieces of written testimony labeled Exhibits 3 through 33. Exhibit 1 was the preliminary master plan, and Exhibit 2 was the errata sheet. At the joint public hearing, we had 23 speakers provide testimony, and then we received 1 piece of late testimony from the Office of the County Executive on behalf of the Department of Public Works and Transportation. Next slide, please. So there are 5 major issues that I'll discuss. This includes what type of development should occur at the Six Flags America properties, whether retail shopping centers should include new residential development, what should the extent of the boundaries of the Bowie local town center include, what type of residential development should occur at Freeway Airport, and then what are the major differences with the transportation projects proposed in the plan and those recommended by the city of Bowie in their transportation priority letter to the Maryland Department of Transportation. Next slide. But first, we can discuss the commercial development at Six Flags properties. We received testimony against, quote, maximum commercial development at this location, with many residents expressing concern regarding the environment and other local impacts like traffic. It was also noted that the master plan mistakenly referred to this use of Six Flags as an amusement park land use, when the zoning ordinance actually defines it as a commercial recreation attraction. This area has been used as a commercial recreation attraction since the early 1970s and has continued to be a vital resource for the county. Next slide. For this reason, the master plan supports the extension of the park onto the adjacent properties and other uses that would complement the Six Flags America theme park, with, of course, the proper environmental impact mitigation measures. However, the way the policy was worded in the preliminary plan, it was unclear in its intention, and it seemed to support a mixed-use center, which was not the intent of the policy. So to correct this issue, staff recommends that the policies and strategies regarding Six Flags properties, including the policy that states to maximize commercial development, be deleted and removed from the plan. However, we do recommend retaining the properties as commercial, as is depicted in the future land use map, so we can continue to support the longstanding commercial recreation attraction that is Six Flags. We've also determined that the rezoning to a commercial zone is no longer necessary to support the park, and that the Legacy Comprehensive Design Zone under the countywide map amendment does support that land use moving forward. Next slide, please. The next major issues regarding the strategies that recommended introducing residential development to certain shopping centers in the area. The city of Bowie submitted testimony that was against this concept, except at Bowie Local Town Center. Next slide, please. So the master plan recommends adding a housing component at Free State Shopping Center, Bowie Marketplace, Bowie Plaza, and Pointer Ridge. Staff recommends moving forward with these recommendations in the adopted plan. The recommendations are firmly supported by the Prince George's County Retail Marketability and Competitiveness Study from 2016, which states that the county is lacking population densities necessary to support certain retail uses. Current best practices show that introducing housing to existing retail centers help revive those centers. It also puts people near existing businesses, which minimizes traffic and increases walkability, even in the suburban environment. These recommendations are not intended to replace retail with housing, but to create a mix of complementary uses in more compact areas. The recommendation is also supported by the 2008 adopted zoning ordinance, which permits residential land uses in the commercial, general, and office zone, which is generally applied to your typical retail shopping center. I also note that the 2018 zoning ordinance includes neighborhood compatibility standards, which ensures that any infill housing development is context sensitive and seamlessly integrates with the existing community. Next slide, please. The next issue is to what extent should we expand the Bowie local town center boundaries? The city of Bowie recommends expanding the boundaries far beyond the current boundary. As it is proposed by the city, the boundary would add approximately 3,600 acres or 5.6 square miles to the Bowie local town center and would extend into the rural and agricultural area. The city proposed boundaries are shown in the map as the very large area outlined in purple. The original boundary from the county's general plan is in the hatched green, and the master plan proposed boundary is shown in orange. Extending the boundaries to include all this property would dilute the potential of having the denser development in the core and the edge. It would encroach the growth boundary. It would also prompt a zoning recommendation to rezone the entire area to one of the activity center zones, which is not appropriate for large swaths of land. I would also note that all of the town centers in the county, Bowie Local Town Center is already one of the largest and least compact. This reflects historical development patterns of the outer suburbs where you do have less dense shopping centers surrounded by parking lots and established communities. We want to concentrate growth in these non-residential areas where there are large parking lots where growth can be accommodated. This does not mean that the boundaries cannot be expanded in the future once certain densities have been reached in the center. As you will see in a moment, we are recommending adding strategies to make this clear in the plan. Next slide. But first, here's the boundary as recommended in the preliminary master plan. As you can see, the core is Bowie Town Center, and the edge includes Bowie Gateway, Melfort, and the Bowie Corporate Center. Staff recommends carrying this forward in the adopted plan. However, we do recommend adding two strategies that would acknowledge the potential for boundary growth expansion in the future once certain densities are met in the centers. Next slide. So staff recommends adding strategy land use 5.6. This strategy states that we continue to monitor and evaluate the density and floor area ratio development at Bowie Local Town Center. And then as those density goals are achieved, we can consider expanding the boundaries. Next slide. And then staff also recommends adding strategy 8.5, which is the same as 5.6, but applies to Bowie State University Mark Campus Center, which is their other center in the plan area. Next slide, please. Moving on to the next major issue is about what density of residential development should be recommended at Freeway Airport. We received testimony that recommended higher residential density land uses. This is because there are existing entitlements that allow townhouses in the agricultural residential zone under certain circumstances that apply to this property. We want to clearly acknowledge the existing entitlements and note that the master plan will not and cannot disturb those entitlements, but we also want to reconsider the density of the land use if the proposed development were to be unsuccessful for whatever reason. Next slide, please. So the preliminary plan has a strategy that recommends single-family housing for the property and future land use map. And the future land use map supports this by showing rural and agricultural land uses, which is defined in the plan as less than or equal to 0.5 dwelling units per acre. I want to emphasize that the rural and agricultural land use classification as defined in the plan does include residential development, and that the master plan does support residential development at this location, but at a lower density than currently being proposed in the preliminary plan of subdivision for Freeway Airport. Next slide. So staff recommends revising strategy land use 3.1 to be more explicit in the desired density and to acknowledge the entitlements under the preliminary plan of subdivision. It is staff's recommendation that this property is still best suited for very low density residential, which is what is typical of a property in the AR zone. Next slide, please. Another issue that arose is regarding two different transportation projects supported by the city of Bowie, but not supported by the master plan. This includes the construction of a connector between Maryland 197 and Maryland 424 in Anne Arundel County. The proposed arterial roadway is not currently in the state adopted consolidated transportation program, and it is in the rural and agricultural area where it would greatly impact the Patuxent River and the protected parkland and other environmental resources along the river. The other project is the Maryland 193 US 50 interchange. An interchange at this location would increase traffic volumes along several roads, lead to spillover traffic into surrounding communities, and result in the eventual intensification of land development that conflicts with the goals and policies of Plan 2035 and this master plan. I would also note that the county's transportation priority letter does recommend that the State Highway Administration conduct a regarding a potential interchange somewhere along US 50 between the existing interchanges with Maryland 704 and Maryland 197, but it's staff's recommendation that an interchange at Maryland 193 US 50 would have too many negative impacts. Next slide, please. So next we received testimony for 14 properties or group of properties that recommended a future land use that was different than what was in the preliminary plan, specifically a map 16 future land use map. Next slide. And this is the rest of the list. And then after analyzing the information provided and the facts of each case, we agreed with this list of changes and are recommending making amendments to the future land use map. I'll now go over each one in a little bit more detail. Next slide. The property on Laurel Bowie Road is now recommended for parks and open space because it's owned by the city of Bowie and is part of their park network. The property located on Lemon Bridge Road is part of BG&E Utilities and should therefore be institutional land uses. The group of properties east of Adnell Woods and the 12th Street Myrtle Avenue properties should be residential low since they are part of the existing community fabric of Old Town Bowie. Next slide, please. This is also true for the group of properties just east of Old Town Bowie. Then the properties at Old Chapel Road should be commercial, include a commercial building and a gas station. And Princeton Square Townhouse community should be residential medium since it has townhouses at that density. And then the property on Old State Road contains a school and should be institutional. Next slide, please. Furthermore, the property on Elder Oaks Boulevard has an existing high-density residential community and should be residential high. The property at Robinson Way is the Bowie City Hall and therefore should be institutional. The undeveloped property on Mitchellville Road is being considered for townhouse development, is adjacent to existing townhouses, and is a project that is supported by the city of Bowie. So that's now recommended for residential medium high, which is defined as 3.5 to 8 dwelling units per acre, attached or detached. And as you'll see in a moment, this property is also being recommended to be rezoned for townhouses. And then the property at 3560 Mitchellville Road has a daycare center for children and can be reclassified as institutional. Next slide, please. And then finally, the Covington 5 townhouse community can be reclassified as residential medium high based on its existing density. And then the property in the median of US 301 can be reclassified as commercial because it's part of an existing commercial property all under the same ownership. This change is also to support a change in the recommended zoning, which I'll cover shortly. Next slide, please. Next, we have a proposed amendment to add additional property to the rural and agricultural area. The city of Bowie testified and recommended that we extend strategy land use 2.3 to include all the property owned by the same property owner, known as the Jesuit property. This includes the area that is both north and south of Maryland 450. Bringing this property into the R&A area also means that the sewer category is recommended to be changed to S6 rather than S5, and that the properties would be outside of the growth boundary. I would also note that extensive development at this location would require costly extensive water sewer, which is one of the reasons why it's being recommended to be moved into the rural and agricultural area. Next slide. So there has been an update on this proposed amendment that was described in the analysis of testimony as line item number 31. Staff no longer recommends adding these two undeveloped properties along US 301 to the rural and ag area, but recommend retaining them in the established communities. However, we do still recommend the agricultural residential zoning, which is currently being implemented to the countywide map amendment. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have also recommended adding 3 strategies and revising 2 strategies regarding zoning recommendations based on testimony received. Here's the list of 5 strategies. As a reminder, we are not doing a concurrent sectional map amendment with this master plan. So these are recommendations in the plan that will inform the sectional map amendment, which should be initiated shortly after approval of this plan next year. Next slide, please. So first we have the property referenced by CZ 2.2, which is in the northern part of the Jesuit property. Because this property is now being reclassified as the rural and agricultural area and will be outside of the growth boundary, staff recommends adding a strategy to rezone the property, to recommend rezoning the property from residential estate to agricultural residential zone. The property is adjacent to property already in the AR zone and is under the same ownership. The property is also undeveloped and is fully covered in tree canopy. The AR zone is most appropriate to protect the natural resources and make for a good transition to the rural and agricultural area where preservation is priority. Placing the property in the AR zone does not exclude development, but permits development while protecting environmental resources on the property. Next, we have the property along Mitchellville Road. Referenced under the added strategy CZ 3.1. This is the property we already covered in the land use section of this presentation, where we recommended residential medium high, which includes townhouses for the property. Again, this property is supported by the city of Bowie, or this project is supported by the city of Bowie and the property owner. The property is also adjacent to an existing townhouse development. Rezoning this property to allow townhouses would be an extension of the existing community and would fit into the character of the neighborhood. Next, we have the property at 7 Southeast Robert Crane Highway, referenced under the added strategy of CZ 3.2. We also cover this property in the land use section of this presentation, where we recommended commercial land use. The property just south of it is already recommended for commercial service zone. The subject property is under the same ownership as the property already in the commercial service zone. So rezoning this would correct a split zoning and allow for the existing commercial land use to extend to the owner's full property. I also note that this property is in the median of US 301 and adjacent to the interchange with Maryland 214, making the property less suitable for residential development. Therefore, staff is recommending commercial service zone. Next, we have the properties referenced under CZ 10.1. These properties are centrally located in Old Town Bowie and are part of the area recommended for neighborhood mixed use as the future land use. Under the countywide map amendment, the full list of properties is currently going into the industrial employment zone. The preliminary master plan recommended changing this to commercial, general, and office zone. However, the city of Bowie testified that this recommendation should be limited to those properties shown on the slide closest to the heart of Old Town Bowie, and that the remaining properties stay industrial employment. Staff concurs that there is a need to keep industrial zoning throughout the county, and that many of these properties have been excluded from the CGO zone, have industrial land uses already in place. The staff notes that the goal here is to help create an arts and entertainment district, and that industrial zoning can actually play an important role in supporting art-related uses that are permitted and ideally located in industrial zones. Next slide. So lastly, we received testimony that stated that the uses approved for National Capital Business Park at Collington Local Employment Area are not permitted in the industrial employment zone, but are permitted in the industrial heavy zone. Staff concurs that the uses proposed at National Capital Business Park are uses recommended for Collington Local Employment Area. So staff recommends revising strategy 7.1 to industrial heavy to capture the desired uses already approved or currently operating in the area. Next slide. Lastly, we have two minor issues that were raised. We received testimony from the City of Bowie Environmental Advisory Council that provided suggested language for the sustainability and climate change text boxes that are throughout the plan. The language provided overall a lot of good information and helped connect each plan element to sustainability. We recommend many of the edits that were proposed. And then the City of Bowie recommended revitalizing West Bowie Village Shopping Center. Originally, the master plan did not include a strategy to revitalize the center since it's not on one of the major roads and its redevelopment could hinder the success of the area. The areas where revitalization is a priority, like the centers. However, the City of Bowie has expressed that this is an important center to the community and that they've made efforts in its revitalization that should be supported by the master plan. So staff recommends adding a policy that provides explicit support for the revitalization of the shopping center. Next slide. Okay, almost done. So today we are completing the planning board work session and we are scheduled for planning board adoption next Thursday. And we are still on track for council approval in May of 2022, assuming that we do have a second joint public hearing. Next slide. And I am now happy to take any questions that you may have.
Okay, let me, thank you so very much. We appreciate it, Mr. Lester, and your thorough presentation. I'm going to see if the board has any questions that we may. I want to go back to slide 29 for a second, just to make sure I'm clear. So the West Bowie Village Shopping Center, is that the one that's a Church Road on the right there, Church Road in Old Annapolis?
I can bring it up on the map real quick.
Is that on the blue screen right there? You see it to the right? We're not talking about where Harris Teeter is. We're talking about the one on the right, right?
No, that's just the image that was used. It's not.
Okay.
Is that by where the Lidl is?
Yes.
Yes, it is much closer to the Lidl. Yep.
Closer to Lidl, but there's a alcoholic beverage store there and the pizza place there. And
I wouldn't know about that, Madam Chair.
Yes, there's a Lido's there. Okay.
So yeah, it's off of Annapolis Road.
Yeah, it's the old 450 though, not the new. Okay, got it.
Old 450.
Okay. All right, got it. And this is Shell gas station on the corner right there, Church Road. Okay, got it. I just want to make sure. Okay. Yeah, when 450 got moved, huh? Oh yeah, the pie shop. Yeah, but the pie shop became a barbecue place. Okay. So, but that's across the street. Okay. So, yeah, okay. So I think, yeah, that's really important because when 450 relocated, then that's kind of, they're a little bit isolated over there. Okay. Let's see if the board has questions for you at this time. Madam Vice Chair.
No questions at the moment.
And then I also want to go back to, I'm going to ask the others, but I know you already stated this, and I forgot what slide it was at this point, but in response to one of the letters that were submitted into the record from Mr. Haller, we did change the recommendation, and I just would like for you to reiterate that again.
Sure. So I guess it's the two properties that are by Mill Branch Crossing.
Mill Branch Crossing, correct.
Yeah, so we were recommending that the growth boundary would extend and exclude those properties or put them outside the boundary. But that has changed after more discussion.
Thank you. So that's the
original analysis.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's see if there are any other questions at this juncture. So Madam Vice Chair said no. Commissioner Washington,
No questions.
Commissioner Dorner.
No questions. I'm glad that you actually pointed that out because I wanted to highlight that change. And the other thing that I wanted to highlight is I appreciate the staff recommendation on residential development and retail shopping centers and retaining the ability to have residential development in there, which might include multifamily. It might include other sort of land uses that would be sort of mixed form development. I think that's important as we go forward and we're trying to develop a county that is becoming more urban from some of the spillovers from the DC areas. The ability to look at other alternative uses is critical to having some of these shopping centers survive and retaining tax bases for local communities, attracting new folks coming in, offering a range of income levels, and just sort of foot traffic. And we've started to see a few places begin to redevelop in that manner. I think having a mix of land uses, whether it be commercial, residential, and all of that is great because the sort of standard shopping centers that used to be the suburban sprawl of the 90s and that form of development has gone by the wayside. And I hope the city of Bowie comes to terms with that and realizes it because it's not urban planning anymore. So I'm glad that staff is using their expertise and recognizing that and standing firm on that point. And that's my only.
And you know what? I couldn't agree with you more, Commissioner Dorner. I was looking at their firm opposition on slide 8, and it, we want these mixed uses. Okay, so let's see if Commissioner Giraldo has any comments.
No, I just appreciate the efforts that staff made with this. And I agree with the comments made by Commissioner Dorner.
Okay.
And I'm glad we're keeping Freeway Airport in the RA zone.
Okay. So we have no other questions at this time, and we're not. And this is. Let me make sure I'm clear, because this is just a presentation. We're not voting until next week. Okay. So, all right. Greatly appreciate it. Mr. Rowe, did you have something to add? You're talking. You seem to be talking.
Yes, Madam Chair. At this point in the work session, for the record, Scott Rowe with the Long Range Planning Section. At this point of the work session, generally the planning board directs us to prepare a resolution of adoption for next week's meeting.
Okay. Thank you. So if the board seems to be on board with this, we would need a motion to so direct.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Commissioner Washington, seconded by Commissioner Giraldo. Is there any discussion? Under discussion, I would say, look, this is not easy. The work that we have done this entire year has not been easy. Between the zoning, the rewrite, the CMA, the preliminary Bowie, Mitchellville, and vicinity master plan. I mean, there's so many things, but you've risen to the occasion, and we can't please everybody. It's an impossibility. But you, as Commissioner Dorner indicated, you are using your expertise, your best judgment, and presenting it to us, and we in turn are using ours, and we're so very thankful for that. Now, we have a number of private sector people who are watching and listening, and let me say to the private sector, so we're very thankful for you as well. We tried to keep going, to promote economic development in this county, never missing a beat during our pandemic, but we know we can't please everybody. Your input in this process has been very, very important, and we are very thankful for that as well. So with that, we have a motion and a second. I don't know if there's any other discussion, except to say thank you to everyone involved. And then I'm going to go to Madam Vice Chair.
I vote aye, but this is also a way of looking to the future. I mean, some of us who've been around for a very long time tend to sometimes like things as they were, but the future is coming, whether we want it or not. If we're still around, we need to begin to look to the future, and this is an indication of that. Well done on the part of the staff, and we have much to think about.
Thank you. So we have an aye from Madam Vice Chair. Commissioner Washington?
I vote aye and associate myself with my colleagues' comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Dorner?
Vote aye and ditto. Thanks for all the work for staff. This is great.
And Commissioner Giraldo?
I vote aye, Madam Chair, and thank you to staff.
Okay. The ayes have it 5-0. You had something else to say, or is that high?
Yeah, of course I'm voting aye. Thank you for your kind words.
Okay.
And we did have one item of business that we did not bring up, which is on December the 3rd, the Office of the County Executive submitted testimony into the record. That was late. Yeah. That was late, and we did review that testimony. It's in the late backup package, but we did want to recommend. Oh, go ahead, Madam Chair.
We do accept it into the record. I saw that, made a note of it myself. So.
Okay, I believe you have to vote to accept it into the record.
Okay, so all right. Well, let me just say this. Okay, we have to finish. We had a vote 5-0 to support the resolution coming back to us next week. We do. We need a motion to accept the late testimony or presentation from the county exec's office into the record as well.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Giraldo, seconded by Madam Vice Chair. Madam Vice Chair.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Washington.
Vote aye.
Commissioner Dorner.
Vote aye, but just in comments or discussion about the comments, I just want to clarify, I agree with some of their comments that prioritizing or helping state highways is important, but it's equally as important in these towns to prioritize pedestrians and bikers and multimodal transit. Highways are on the way up in terms of urban development that we're trying to do. So we should integrate them and take them into account. But the State Highway Administration needs to get with the times as well with us and help us bring this county forward and look at other modes of transportation that are safer, are cleaner, are greener, and are the way of the future as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Dorner. And Commissioner Giraldo.
I vote aye.
Okay. So the ayes have it 5-0 to accept the late testimony. Into the record. Okay. So I think, Mr. Hunt, I think that brings us to this planning board to a conclusion. Is that not correct?
That is correct, Madam Chair.
So before I hit that gavel, we are rapidly approaching the end of the year. Next week will be our last planning board session for the year, calendar year 2021. Okay, and so all of you won't be on the same meeting next week. Some of you will and some of you won't. So as we close out this meeting, I just want to say thank you to all of our staff. Thank you to all of the private sector. We get through these things together. They are challenging. We have an engaged board. We have an engaged staff. We have an engaged private sector community, and all working together is how we move forward. And not just in terms of economic development, not just in terms of the physical development of Prince George's County, but also in terms of survival out here. Survival in terms of our health, survival in terms of our well-being, survival in terms of the future of Prince George's County. So I'm going to thank everyone once again and remind everyone to please stay kind and to look out for one another. It is so very important. We should be the example. We should be on the forefront of being kind, of looking out for one another, of staying healthy, making sure we save lives. Get vaccinated, get your booster shot. It's so critical. 1,100 deaths a day is an abomination. It's a travesty. And we can do something about that. We have the ability to do something about that. Please take care of yourselves and your loved ones. Have respect for your loved ones and your community and your elders and your young folks and your colleagues. It's just so very important. And as you do, that's the biggest kindness gesture you can do, but you should just be kind anyway. It's very, very rough out here. So I'm going to close with that. Just focus on kindness. and happiness and our blessings. And Mr. Hunt, is there any additional business to come before the Prince George's County Planning Board today?
There's no additional business before the planning board today, Madam Chair.
Planning Board is adjourned. Thank you.